What is a rent-to-rent property deal and how do you find your first one? Where do you need to look for rent-to-rent deals and who do you need to talk to get one? What's the next action you need to take in order to secure your first deal? I'm Matt Harris and welcome to the HMO Experience. Whether you're looking for a profitable side hustle or you want to launch a new business venture, this series is all about helping you get started with your own rental arbitrage or rent-to-rent business. I'm sharing what I learned from starting and scaling my own business in London, mentoring mastermind clients and hosting the HMO Experience Property Podcast. This video sets out 7 useful tips that you can use in order to secure your first rent-to-rent property deal, including the definition of a deal, how to find a deal, leveraging online portals, speaking with the right person, and sharing content. You can also grab a free copy of the How to Find Your First Rent-to-Rent HMO Property Guide by clicking the link in the video description below. Ready? Let's jump in. Today we are going to be talking about finding deals, loads of deals everywhere. Specific around HMO property, whether you're looking to buy and develop or for rent to rent. Finding deals is one of the main hurdles that you have difficulty overcoming.
I just want to share a couple of thoughts on what is a deal, because everyone's view of a deal is different. So for those of you who are looking to buy and develop properties, then of course the deal might very much be about numbers, i.e. what is the performance metric or metrics that you want your property purchase to deliver. That metric with those looking to buy and develop an HMO might be how much net rental income you're going to make, or how much money you've got to put into the deal and how much value you can then add by developing that property into an HMO. Or maybe even when you come to refinance the property, if that's the strategy you're going to follow, how much money you're pulling out or leaving into that deal. So that might make it a deal or not. So very much focus on the metrics that you want those properties or properties you're looking at to deliver for you. So the numbers are really important. But here's the thing I also want to make a distinction of. For those of you like Matt and I who not only buy, but we also do rent to HMO to generate an income, a deal isn't necessarily just purely based on the numbers. The numbers are an important part, but actually you're providing a service. And that service might be something which is really important or valuable to the person you're offering it to. Let me give you a quick example. And you might be offering a rent to HMO service to a letting agency. Maybe one of the metrics that they want to work to is, well, we don't do HMOs, we do single lets, but we'd like to enter into that HMO marketplace, but we haven't got the time or the resources to do it. So maybe for them, for that letting agency, doing a deal with you is outsourcing and leveraging and working together with you to offer that service. If on the other hand, you're going to a landlord directly, offering a rent to HMO opportunity, maybe the deal with that landlord is, I don't want to deal with tenants anymore. I'm fed up with self-managing. I want you to take away the perceived heartache or pain or whatever the problem is that they have. Don't just think about it, please, in numbers and financial return. Yes, they are definitely important, but also think about from the perspective of what your service is. And I think from a service point of view, it's very much the rent to HMO strategy. And of course, the numbers and the metrics are much more important with buying, because you're buying a property, you're doing it up, you're developing it, and you want that property that you own to give a certain return.
One of the main challenges with finding deals has been more around rent to rent. The challenge is not only obviously finding either a landlord or an agent that they could work with, but also finding, a property which is going to be suitable to convert into a HMO. If we start down the rent to rent route and then later on in the episode we can pivot a little bit more towards buying, or I know that there's some different factors to take into account, when you're looking at things like that. So from a rent to rent perspective, again, just going back to when you guys started, like what were the main avenues that you were using to find HMO opportunities?
Some of the marketing tactics are what we did, and what we did, we did a training course each. Steve went to one training provider for a one-day course. I went to another. We then compared notes, and we literally tried all the different marketing tactics that we were taught on those 2 courses. They included things like putting up postcards in betting agency shops and in the supermarket and in key cutting shops, offering our rent to HMO service to other property managers or agents or landlords. We did that for a while. We also did some classified ads in the local newspaper in Bedford. So we would do what was called at the time, I'm sure still is, guerrilla marketing. So we would have a classified advert in the non-property section of the classified section of the newspaper saying, we take any houses, guaranteed rent, and we'd have either a black background advert with white letters, nice and bold, or we go to the color section of the classified ads and have a bright orange ad, only what's called a 4x2, a 5x2, or 10x2, which is basically a box with black bold letters inside. And we tried all sorts of stuff, but the key things, Matt, that we were looking at is very much being very clear that we were always going down two routes. One route was marketing our message, our Rent-to-HMO service, targeting existing letting agents, and the second route to market was going out to landlords directly. There was only ever going to be those two avenues and the key things we did is very much writing to landlords to offer our service and going to property networking events to go and meet them in person, and secondly going into letting agents and sharing what our product and service was. What did you do when you started out, Matt?
Phone calls, just phone calls. That was it. Yeah, just agents. Literally, I think I sent one round of landlord letters, and didn't really do it consistently, so didn't get any results from that. But I think with talking with agents, like it's more immediate. You kind of know, you can measure it a little bit better. Whereas sending 10 rounds of letters and getting a phone call 6 months later down the line, it's still a useful avenue. I wanted to get going immediately, so agents were the obvious choice to start. Just before we delve into this, I think it's worthwhile just mentioning, as part of your startup, or when you're planning to start, you've got a plan in place, you would have carried out some research and defined your goldmine area, right? The actual area that you're focusing on. I started in Northwest London, so NW10 postcode primarily, a little bit of NW2, a bit of NW6, mainly because I used to live in Willesden Green, so I kind of knew that area and the surrounding, and I thought, well, might as well go to where I know. Once you define that, I made a list of agents that were in the goldmine area, and I also went online. So Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, those were probably the three main platforms. And then it was just phone calls, lots and lots of phone calls. Tried to do 100 calls a day, just phone calls, just get out there to get your pattern sorted out. And then also, because you've defined your area, popping in to see the agent, it is tried and tested. This is a relationship business, and the objective is to build relationships with agents so that, once they have an understanding as to who you are, what you do, they feel a bit more comfortable to give you that opportunity when you do inquire about a property where they're sort of sitting on the fence. So I did that. Again, did I like doing it? Not really. I'd rather sit on a laptop, but it has paid off in the long run. Got 4 really good relationships with agents now, different agents in our goldmine area, where they'll be completely upfront. I'll inquire about a property, they'll tell me yes or no. If it is a yes, they know that I'll act pretty quickly, which is great. But yeah, that was sort of my primary route, just doing that, just getting on the phone and going to see agents, and using Rightmove and Zoopla and On the Market to get notifications and to look at properties because they're readily available. So other than the guerrilla marketing stuff, did you follow this similar sort of path? Yeah, did you follow a similar sort of path?
Yes, we went to agents, but I was never going to do 100 phone calls a day. We didn't have fancy websites or anything at all. We literally wheeled me out down to Estate and Letting Agency Row in Bedford, and I would have a conversation with agents, and I'd have loads of no's, loads of people not interested whatsoever, didn't get it, didn't understand it, and probably primarily because I wasn't as clear as I could have been in explaining what the value of my product and service, my Rent-to-HMO service was. We learned from experience. And again, we only focused on trying to get one relationship with one letting agent. All we needed to do when starting out was to find one opportunity with one agent who got it. And as it happened, having had lots of no's from agents who didn't get it or didn't want to work with us because we weren't proven, we had no track record, no existing properties to show them or tell them about. We found one agent, and again, we've been great friends with that agency since. Jane Kane in Bedford is amazing. Thank you, Jane. Jane gave us a break, and she gave us a break because she realized that actually we could help solve a potential problem of hers, which was having a number of HMO properties that weren't being rented out. She wasn't making any money from so far. She didn't have the staff or the resources at that time to take on the management of a bunch of HMO properties, with the bread and butter of all of her income business from that agency was single let properties. So she saw an opportunity. Did she give us loads initially? No, she gave us one. But Jane gave us one opportunity with one property, and we simply followed our training we learned and got better on the job of actually learning to manage that property correctly. And on the back of that, Jane has been amazing. She's given us a whole load of properties because we've proven ourselves in a way that she benefits and we benefit too. On the back of that, it took a while, Matt, having had lots of no's from agents. We went to all those agents who told us no initially. We shared with them the experience we've now got, using some of the examples of properties that we got from Jane. We shared Jane's details, saying, well, Jane over here, this letting agency is working with us, so you should definitely be considering us too. And we've got more deals on the back of those things too. So it's taken time.
You know, other than phoning agents or emailing them, like LinkedIn is a great resource to start building connections with agents. Or landlords a little bit difficult, but agents definitely. A big advocate of using that opportunity. What does it require? Well, you need to, make sure that you have a reasonable profile. So whether it's, whether you have some property experience or zero property experience, like, mention in there that you are a property investor. I think I've got HMO operator on my profile, and, have a little bit of content around what you're doing. That you need to share with people what you're doing so that when you're looking to connect with agents on LinkedIn, they can have a look at your profile and actually see, oh, okay, so I understand a little bit about, what you're about, whether you're doing this full time or just looking to get into it or whatever the case may be. I think that is really important. So then once you've got a list of agents that are in your goldmine area, you can do a bit of research online to find out who the principal is, who the lettings manager is, or who the, if they're an independent, who the director of the business or the owner of the business is. Find out whether they're on LinkedIn, connect with them, send them, a message. Don't just press connect on LinkedIn, send them a personal message. Tell them why you're interested in connecting. Don't come across as salesy. You're not trying to get a property there and then. You're trying to build a connection so that you can continue the conversation online and at some stage jump on a video call or go in and see them. I think that is an underused resource right now. And does it require you to put in a little bit of groundwork? It does, because, as we've mentioned previously with marketing, you kind of just need to share your journey, your story a little bit so that people will know about you. They can, whether it's social proof or whatever, they're going to be able to find out a little bit of background about you, which is actually, for me, a much easier way to introduce myself rather than just walking into an estate agent's office, because, you have to say all that sort of stuff. Whereas if you go through LinkedIn, they'll be able to have a look at your profile. They'll scroll through, oh, okay, you used to do that and this. Oh, okay, and you're now doing this. Amazing. Yes, I'll accept, and let's start a conversation. Just in terms of, if you're looking for independence as well, to find out who the owner is, go to Companies House, search that independent agent business on Companies House. You'll see who the directors are. Then you can search those directors on LinkedIn and make a connection.
Because if you don't speak to the decision maker or someone relatively senior in lettings, then, and you're speaking to someone who just takes the calls, or a negotiator, for example, they're not going to be the decision maker. They're not necessarily going to ask you questions about actually what is it your service is and how it can benefit their agency. So I think you're absolutely right. Identifying the major decision makers within the agency on platforms like LinkedIn or Companies House is really key, because then you can have a proper conversation with them about how you can benefit the agency, not just, I want to go and do a viewing of that property. It takes it up a notch, and again, it makes you much more professional, and you can show your value to the agency in a slightly different way. So we definitely went to the agency route when doing Rent to HMO. Another thing, Matt, we did was we spoke to landlords directly, and one of the things we used was SpareRoom for that. So you can actually go and see listings on SpareRoom for those agents, for those owners rather, who are self-managing, and you can get the contact details. You can often communicate with them over phone or email, which I thought was really powerful. And we did that too, and we met a number of landlords in the early days using that route.
We used OpenRent for that. OpenRent gives you direct access to the landlords as well. I'm a little bit disappointed because not had the greatest level of response from landlords, and I've kind of tailored the introductory message a few different ways, but still no response. But it is there, like you can get direct access to landlords that way. It's whether or not they respond. I think a couple of other platforms, Gumtree, obviously you can search for property listings on there, and also they've got an option whether to choose for agency listings or private listings. So private listings, you're more likely to get direct to landlords. Facebook Marketplace is okay as well, or Facebook groups like buy and sell group. That's quite handy. With Rightmove, they've got a really neat feature where you can actually define your search area. That's really handy because you can obviously get email notifications when suitable properties within your criteria are listed. But this just goes a level deeper because with Zoopla and On the Market, you can search by postcode, which is all right. Yeah. But I kind of know, our main postcode area is NW10, and the north of NW10, not so great. South of NW10 is pretty good. So using the Rightmove function, I've been able to pinpoint, actually, I just want notifications from properties within this particular area. So that's really handy. And as well as obviously setting up your daily or weekly or every 3 days, I think that's the options to get property notifications. They're really useful online tools. With the direct to landlord stuff, Jamie, you guys have had far more success than I've had with that. So do you want to talk a little bit about your approach to contacting landlord direct and how you've been so successful with that?
Yeah, happy to do so. The two things that work with us really are like old school stuff, really old school, but it seems to work relatively consistently.
Yeah.
So the first approach is sending out letters to landlords. And, some people are like, oh, really? That's not exactly the most cutting edge thing in the world. But quite frankly, it works. So if you go to your HMO landlord list from the local council, and this is for those of you looking to do rent to HMO, by the way, and you can then write in a letter a compelling reason why you can help them if they are self-managing landlords, for example. And your offer is going to be taking away some of their potential pain points or problems that they perceive, then you've got to write to them. And if you write to them, you've got to get your letter, your envelope open. So some of the things that we've done, which have worked very well for us, is, again, for sending out letters and having them in coloured envelopes, and little things like writing the address of the owner's details or the correspondence details on the envelope. Works. It just works. All you need to do from a direct marketing point of view is getting your letter opened, and that's where the coloured envelopes, doesn't look like a corporate letter or a bill. Those things work. Writing the address on the envelope, again, makes it look personal. It's much more likely to get opened. So our open rates are a lot higher than many other people who just do a standard mail shot with a white envelope with a printed or sticker label with the address on it. That's what direct marketing is all about. It's a very traditional but also well practiced and great results come from something like that. And as it happened, we put ourselves in the right position by doing this regularly. In the very first week in 2014 of doing this, we got a response from Penny, who's a local landlady, and she gave us a property on Tavistock Street in Bedford for 3 years, before she then subsequently sold that to take the equity out. So that made us £97,000 gross income from sending out a letter. Now, does that happen all the time? No, it doesn't, but it happened in the very first week, and we've therefore been consistently sending out letters. So old school stuff like that definitely works if you do it consistently. The second thing we do is we go and meet local landlords at local networking events. We go to that, we put ourselves out there because we want to raise our profile and speak to landlords directly. Then we're talking verbally about what our product and service is, and we have secured deals that work for us on that basis.
Just to build on getting access to a landlord, and this is probably the phase after. So you, for example, with Penny, I'm sure you built up a good relationship over the course of the 3 years. Part of what we do as well is we maintain regular contact with landlords to give them an update as to how the property's running and all that kind of stuff. But also to put us in a position to ask, do you know anyone else who might benefit from this? Because landlords are always going to know other landlords, right? And that isn't necessarily going to come from day one, but it is going to come as you start to build up your business and you build up a relationship with a landlord over a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever the case may be, and just to get referrals or introductions, because if they're happy with the service that you provide, so it's a big old caveat, they need to be happy with it, then there's no reason why, if you were to ask or if you were to encourage them to provide referrals, why they can't do it. One of the things that we're looking to introduce, and this works for the agents as well, is to issue a monthly newsletter just to give landlords and agents an update, not just on what's happening within the business, but also what's happening locally with Brent Council within the area, or there's Article 4 is going to be introduced in Brent in November. So, things like that, which not every landlord is going to be aware of, but just maintaining that sort of regular contact, which isn't about, the boiler's broke or there's a leaking roof. or there's, you know, the front door's blown in, or whatever the case may be, it's coming from a more positive perspective, a more proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. So that,
and you're raising your profile and giving value, which is great.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
if you can then on the back of that ask for referrals, you know, who do you know who would also benefit from my service? You know, whether it's a letting agency or a landlord, again, it's really powerful stuff. Ask for testimonials, ask for referrals, ask for a quote, which you can then use in your marketing. So put any quotes from agents or landlords or even your customers or your investors into your marketing material, because as you mentioned the phrase a number of times, it's social proof. It's other people saying how good your product or service is. So yeah, really great idea.
One other point just to touch on is obviously I mentioned LinkedIn earlier. It is using social media. I have been contacted off the back of a tweet by a landlord, this was a couple of weeks ago, who saw some stuff that I was putting out on Twitter and our business was putting out on Twitter, and they got in contact off the back of that. You know, they had 7 or 8 properties that they needed help with. I couldn't help, obviously referred them to people who could, but you know, utilizing social media and putting consistent, valuable content out there will at some stage gain you some recognition, right? And encourage people to get in contact with you. Definitely worthwhile pursuing. And we just have regular ads running saying, you know, landlords with properties in Brent, like, get in touch, we can help. You know, this is the sort of service that we provide. This is the feedback that we've got from other landlords, that kind of thing. It's well worth doing. Does it take a little bit of time and effort? Of course it does. All of this does. But it's just another avenue for you to pursue, right? And the more funnels that you have that are open to you, the better. Great. You're on your way to finding your first rent-to-rent property deal. Don't forget to grab your free How to Find Your First Rent-to-Rent HMO Property Deal guide. The next thing you need to think about is the money you need in order to complete the deal. How are you going to finance the deal and where are you going to get the money from? You really only have 3 options, and I cover all 3 in this video right here, so make sure you check that out. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.